destiny is to unite all the Muslims of Toledo on one platform as one community, inshallah. So we went to, my wife will, behind every successful man, which I'm not, there is a woman always telling him that he's wrong. Okay, so at any occasion, if my wife feels that she needs to interject, please welcome to do so. Briefly, of course, inshallah. Because we don't want to stay here all night. Of course, it's a place of blessing, but we don't want to stay all night over here, inshallah. We went to Iran in October 22, a couple of months ago, and this was a dream fulfilled for us. If you know that the culture of Pakistan and India is heavily influenced by Iran, so much so that Farsi was the official language of India for 400 years. And our ancestors spoke and wrote Farsi, and her mother and my grandmother, they all wrote and spoke Farsi. So there's a tremendous influence of Farsi and Persian culture on our language, our cuisine, our names, you name it. Everything originated from Central Asia, which was under Persian influence, and then from Iran directly, and there were a couple of invasions from Iran onto India also. So this is about fulfillment of a dream to go to Iran. And it took about that long for me to ever go. I did plan many times in my life to go to Iran, and that's another story. But we were just discussing about the 5,000-year history of Iran with brothers here. And we said, why? Why is it that this nation is so resilient to survive the most extreme odds against them? And it came to my mind about a statement Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, that if there was learning suspended in the highest of heavens, the Persians will find it. And that reflects, who would know 1400 years ago that people will make it into the heavens? But this was the reason that the Prophet ﷺ himself appreciated the wisdom of the Persians. This trip was not about the politics of Iran. It's not about the foreign policy of United States or the foreign policy of Iran. It is not about whatever's happening in Iran, of which we all have our point of view. But it was purely about, and this trip was planned a year before. So it's been in the making for a year before. The Association of Pakistani Physicians of North America arranged this trip, and it was an opportunity we took and ran because we were going as American Pakistanis. And believe me, we got the protocol treatment as if we were from Pakistan. So America was honored by us, Pakistan was honored by us, and all the propaganda which you hear in the news about relationships between Iran and United States do not exist at the personal level. This is all government talking. Every hotel that we stayed, there was a flag of Pakistan outside, and inside on the counter there was a flag of United States, a flag of Iran, and a flag of Pakistan, and I'll show you one of those pictures. So this was a very different trip. Iran is a country in Western Asia. The present Iran is much more truncated than the Persian Empire, which extended all over. It was, many famous scholars came from Iran in the early Islamic period, and these were philosophers, physicians, scientists, astronomers. They were all influenced by Persian thinking and Persian scientific advancement. And so the influence of Iran goes all over the place in Central Asia, including Turkey. Iran is surrounded by many countries. It's in Western Asia, and you can say it's within the hot spots of the world. So it has its own influence. It is surrounded by, in the north, by the Elbrus Mountains, which you can see in Tehran, and then on the western side by the Zagros Mountains. Everything in between is desert. Iran is 70% desert, and it is sitting on oil, okay, which is inshallah to be used for the benefit of the community. And also to tell you that the cities are lush green, almost forested, but in between, and I'll show you a glimpse of our travel, that it's pitch desert. There were many dynasties and civilizations of Iran, which is not the subject of this talk, but I would highlight the Achaemenides, the Seleucids, because it's in their time that the Sassanids at the time which Islam came to Iran, and of course the Arab and Islamic invasion of Iran, and then later on the Safavids, the Khajjar and the Pahlavis were important dynasties that we will see a glimpse of, and of course of the Islamic Republic. So when you land in Tehran, two things you see as soon as you leave the airport. One is the Imam Khomeini complex, but the bus was going so fast that I could not take a picture of that. And this is the Milad Tower, which is a telecommunications tower in Iran, and this is a slightly better picture of it. So then we stayed on our hotel, which was called the Ispanas, and I want to tell you these hotels are beautiful. They are very, very opulent and extremely high level of hospitality and care. So you see, we reached there about 2 in the morning, and you see the city of Iran from the mountain top, the Tehran from the mountain top at night. And this was a picture of our hotel from outside, just their outside welcoming area. Okay, and I'm going to skip that in the interest of time because we have a lot to see. I was sort of disappointed that we did not get to see much in Tehran, and I sensed that it was a security issue. They did not want us to go to many places, and I could sense from the tour guides and the tour company that there were some intelligence people and foreign office people there. The good thing about going to Iran is you apply to the Embassy of Pakistan in Washington, D.C., which handles the consulate affairs on the behalf of Iran. So the first place we went to in Tehran was the Neveran Palace, and it was really not terribly impressive. There are 8 palaces in Tehran, and only we got to see 2. And we made it a point that we are not going to wander away from our tour for various reasons. So this is the summer palace of the Pahlavi dynasty, or Muhammad Raza Shah, and in there you see a picture of his family, and you still see the clothes of Farah Diba hanging in the closets, and her makeup, and all of that from about 40 years ago is still there. So this was rather a not terribly impressive palace, but the next one you need to see. This is a dining hall of our hotel, and I want to tell you that this tour was heavy on food. Almost everybody, which was about 350 doctors and their families, everybody must have gained at least 10, 15 pounds in 2 weeks, because all day long we were eating and eating and eating. Food was very tasty, lots of variety, as I will show you, and food was also extremely delicious, and when you went and bought things outside, they were very inexpensive. We met another lady from Toledo. They have moved since, Susan Hashmi. But I show you this picture to point your attention to the can of Fanta. You would say, well, what's so big about Fanta? Well, Fanta is a Coke product, and Coca-Cola is an American company. So mind you that majority of the drinks in Iran are Coca-Cola products. Now, where are the sanctions, by the way? Think about it. So Coca-Cola is a very popular, and its products are very popular in Iran. This is the Azadi Tower. It was built in 1971 at the commemoration of the 2500th year of founding of the Iranian Empire. So this is one of the very important places, and during the revolution in 1979, this was a place where a lot of demonstrations were held. We come out and we see a nice street, very heavy traffic, very organized, very clean. I have never seen a cleaner country than Iran in my life. I mean, most places in the United States are not even as clean as you see. Most of Europe is not as clean, but cleaner than United States. But Iran is extremely clean. And then this is a picture of Jamhuria Street, and down the road, there is a Palestine Street. So all of these streets are extremely well kept and well organized. So now we go to the Gulistan Palace. This was built by Fateh Ali Shah Khajjar, but originally was built by the Zand dynasty and then reclaimed by the Pahlavis. The Khajjars, who preceded the Pahlavi dynasty, which is Shah of Iran's dynasty, the Khajjars were very impressed with the Europeans, and they wanted to have a palace which could resemble or even beat the opulence of Versailles. So if you look at this palace, it is very beautiful. I cannot tell you how impressed I was. So now you look at the throne, which is the king's throne sitting outside, and it's called the Takhte Marmar, which is marble. And this is the statue of Fateh Ali Shah. It was so big that I had to take two shots of it. So Fateh Ali Shah was a Qajar king, and that's his statue. And this is just an entrance into the palace.
But that was from the tomb that they had taken.
Yeah. So this is just, I don't know if the projection does justice to it, but this just place is amazingly beautiful. And this is the patio to enter into the palace. Look at the mirror work. Look at how beautiful this looks. And then the stairs are all onyx marble. Very beautiful going into the palace. And this is called the Salam Hall. And the amazing thing about Salam Hall is where Muhammad Raza Shah, for those of you who are old enough to remember, 1969, he had a coronation. That's when his firstborn was 7 years old, Raza, and that's where he was allowed to have a coronation. So he made a very big deal of it, and they say that this was the beginning of his downfall. That when he did his coronation in this hall, and you will notice that there is a statue, actually a replica of the crown, which is on that side in the box. That's the crown of Iran, and it's a replica. And then there is the king is sitting there, and this king is Nuruddin Shah. And so he's sitting on the sun throne, which is again a replica. The originals are in the treasury, and there's a treasury museum, but we were not allowed to go there. In that treasury museum is the Takht-e-Taus, for those of India and Pakistan would know, the peacock throne, and the original jewels, crown jewels, and a couple of diamonds brought from India by Nadir Shah are there in the National Treasury. This is the Hall of Mirrors. This is another hall over there in the same palace. And for those of you who had an opportunity to see Versailles next to Paris, you will realize that this is far more opulent than that. A lot of tile work, hand-painted tiles, porcelain tiles are part of this. This is called the Brelian Hall, and this is another dining room over there. These are originally my pictures and my wife's pictures, which we took, but one picture I stole from the internet, and because my picture wasn't as good. And this is called the Shamsul Imara. It's another extension of the Gulistan Palace. It's called the Sun of All Mansions, SUN. And it was also, I want you to pay very careful attention to the symbols on top of each one. This was at its time the highest building in Iran and the biggest watchtower. So in between the two monuments, you will see a big watch in there. It was a clock. But I want you to pay careful attention to this symbol, which is called the Sher-o-Khurshid. That was the national symbol of Iran. It was a Safavid symbol, and it shows the lion, the sword, and the sun. So Sher-o-Khurshid. And this was on the flag of Iran before the revolution. It's another hall, amazingly beautiful. You could just stay there all day looking at it, but we had to move, and this is the building outside. Okay, so this is Gulistan Palace. Next day, we went to Husseiniya Jamaran. This is the place where Imam Khomeini lived. And it's interesting that Sheikh Jamaran, who owned this property, gave it to Imam Khomeini rahmatullah alayh, to stay there, but Imam Khomeini insisted on paying him rent. And it was a very simple place, very simple residence. This was his room. The only thing which looks a little bit outstanding is the carpet, but this is not unusual for Iran. Iran, everywhere you go, you get beautiful carpets. So it was not out of the ordinary to have a nice carpet, but look how simply he lived. That's his bed and his table. And then he would walk over from his apartment across a little steel bridge, and he would go into a big, relatively moderate sized gymnasium about the size of this hall. and that's where he sat. Right there, right above, you see this mic and a small table, and he would give his khutbahs from there. So amazing level of simplicity, but they now have a library there, and you can see various pictures of his life in there. And I always was very impressed by him.
Zaheer, can you go back to his bedroom and the picture before that? Yeah, this is the room he received telephone calls and answered and spoke with the leaders of the world, including United States, Britain, name it. And he spoke with Russian premiers sitting right in that room. There's a telephone. The gentleman is holding his hand over there. The telephone is right behind it. That's where he would answer all the phone calls and make decisions about whatever he wanted to with the rest of the world.
Thank you. So going on, now we go to the Tajrish area, which is another heavily populated district in inner Tehran, and this is the subway station. But next to it is a roza of the Imamzada Saleh bin Musa Kazim. So this Imamzada and many Imamzadas who are the sons and relatives of the Imams are buried in Iran. By the way, it came to my mind that the most common name in Iran is Raza. There were like 5 Razas with us. Raza Bakhtiyari, Raza Muzaffari, Raza. We also have a Raza Hashmi in Toledo, right? So everyone almost without doubt, if you call somebody Raza, it's possible you would be right. So Imamzada Musa Kazim Saleh is buried here, and this is the very beautiful tomb of his. That's the inside. So amazingly beautiful chandelier. When you come out of the tomb of Imamzada, you go into the market of Tajrish. And I was telling my friends just now that Iran is extraordinarily inexpensive. Very inexpensive, and you get such a variety of fruit and vegetables, some that I've never seen before, but very clean and very nicely set up. So this is I just like vegetables, so I could not help but stand there and look around over the Tajrish. Everywhere, every place of civilization, you see ayat of the Quran and English translations of it on the walls. So this is the Tajrish market. And then you see again, Namaz Sutunas Deen. Salah is the pillar of Deen everywhere. So this is Tajrish market. Next morning, we came to the Imam Khomeini complex outside Tehran. And this is just an architectural wonder. And I want to show you how big it is on this little video. Just get an idea. That's where Imam Khomeini, his son Ahmad Khomeini, and Hashimi Rafsanjani are buried in that chamber, and I'll show you a picture of it. But just see how big it is. It's just amazingly beautiful and very large complex here. And you meet people from all over the world over here. So inside the chamber is buried Imam Khomeini, Ahmad Khomeini, and Hashimi Rafsanjani, who was the president of Iran. So we leave there and we are heading towards Qom, and then our tour will continue towards Qom. Qom is a very historic, religious, and center of education. Within this complex, there are 3 to 4 colleges, and the mausoleum of Sayyidina Masuma Fatima Rahmatullah alayh, the sister of Imam Raza, who unfortunately, sadly, was poisoned in this place. And she stayed there and lingered on till she died. So that's a very sad story, but Allah wanted to give respect to the lady. 6 kings of Iran are buried in this complex. So 4 Safavid and 2 Khajjar, including Fateh Ali Shah, are buried here. If you go in,
she was 26 or 28 when
and
she
she
died.
was a alima herself. She was a scholar. So you see this complex, and these are all the colleges, including the college where Imam Khomeini went to. So you will see this multiple madrasas, seminaries are there, very beautiful entrances. This is the entrance of the masjid, and this is her gravesite or rota. Excellent. Now I want to tell you a little story about this slide. The gentleman in the middle was again a scholar from that complex. He had never been outside Iran, and he spoke fluent English and German. And he was amazingly knowledgeable, and we just could not leave his side. He was just amazingly nice to talk to. I wish I could find out his name. Maybe we could invite him one day over here. But we were very impressed by him. So from home now.
Excuse me. So in the schools over there, which was very, very impressive, was 800 scholars at a time is what they produce from those schools. And amazingly, they are taught not just the theology and Islamic studies, but of course, meeting this gentleman showed us that they are also taught languages, and they become masters in those languages. And when they talk and they speak to you, you can't tell the difference because they have no accent. Just like, well, you know, every one of us has accents, they don't, and that is surprising. So they are taught, I think, not just the Islamic studies, but languages as well as other arts and sciences. 800 scholars from one city of Qom. That was an amazing thing to watch and see.
Thank you. So moving on to Isfahan. Isfahan is an amazing city. It was the center of the Safavid dynasty. They say that if there is, Isfahan is the head and Shiraz is the heart. That's what they talk about Isfahan. So we're going towards Isfahan. Very close is the Natanz area where there are nuclear installations, but we didn't talk about that. And then you see these mountains. And for Pakistanis, the most famous thing from this area is halwa sohan. Okay, that is the best halwa. It is paper thin. It's sheets of it, very soft, loaded with zafran or saffron, and it's so amazing that I had to buy it. But when I realized that, I looked around and there were like 50 people in line, all from our group who bought tons of halwa, and of course nothing is left. So when you enter, we entered Isfahan in the evening time, and I want to show you how clean this street is. Okay, so this is just a typical street, heavy traffic but very orderly. And then we get to the site which is very famous for Isfahan, is the Pul Sharistan bridge on a dry river which is called Zayande River. This bridge was built in 1603, and the river now is dry, but it is so amazingly beautiful at night. Daytime it's not that good looking, but nighttime is wonderful. So it's a walking bridge, and it's just amazingly beautiful. We stayed in a hotel which is a Karwan Sarai. These were let's say old-time hotels where travelers and caravans would stay, and there would always be place for people and animals and their goods, and they would trade over there. So this was a huge Karwan Sarai which is called Abbasi Karwan Sarai, and it is just very beautiful at night. I told you the hotels are very opulent, and this is the dining room. Amazing variety of food in the morning for breakfast, and my brother Ismail would agree with me. He just returned from Iran. At the back of this hotel or Karwan Sarai, and you see the architecture, is a Char Bahar Madrasa or Madrasa Imam Sadiq. And in the olden days, this Karwan Sarai financially supported the madrasa. So all the proceeds of earnings from this Karwan Sarai would go to the support this madrasa. Now we go on to our tour of Isfahan, and we reach a place which was really walking distance from our hotel called Chehel Satoon. Chehel means 40, Satoon means pillar. And you would say, well, how can there be a building with 40 pillars? But this is the reality of it. That's the building. There are 20 pillars and the reflection of 20 pillars in the pond makes it 40, right? So this is the Chahal Satoon Palace. And it was so beautiful from inside. This is one of the Safavid dynasty, Shah Abbas. He built this place and it's just very opulent and beautiful. And this is just the entrance. This is the foyer of the entrance. And notice how beautiful the carvings and the paintings are. And in there about 8 to 10 murals of battles and important events of in the history of that time. And of course all of these battles are the ones which the Persians won. It didn't show any defeats, but it showed only the ones they won. And even these paintings, some of them are rather lewd. You don't want to see dancing girls, right? But they have tolerated that. Okay. This, I zoomed down one mural, which is a picture of Shah Tahmasp, the first, and on the left side, he's offering wine to Humayun. Remember the story when Humayun was run out by Sher Shah Suri? He lost the throne of Delhi, and he ran to Iran for help, and the Safavids helped him. So Tahmasp gave him military support to take back the throne. Otherwise, there would have been no Mughal empire. So that's Humayun on the left. And notice this lady in the background and a few other ladies dancing below. Across the Chahal Satoon Palace is a huge complex, which I will just show you. When you see the picture, you will see how beautiful it is. But to get a good bird's eye view of the complex, you have to go inside this building, which is called Ali Khupa Palace. And
but before you go there, the Chahal Satoon Palace showed us how the Iranians are. They were very receptive. They knew that we were coming as guests from overseas. And it was amazing that we were received with Pakistani national anthem, which was loudly being sung by just the shopkeepers who were outside the Chahal Satoon. So it showed how they wanted to please the guests who were coming and welcoming them.
thank you. So we are entering Ali Khupa Palace, and this palace was in its time the tallest building of Iran. So now, then the next one was the Imarat Shams. So look how beautiful this palace is, and this is the complex, and it is called Naqsh-e-Jahan Square, built by Shah Abbas. And on right in front, now we're on the balcony of the palace looking at this square. That's the Masjid Sheikh Lutfullah. Then this is the Khaisari Bazaar. So this bazaar is covered all entirely. There's a bazaar all around the palace. Okay. And on the right side, you see the Masjid Imam. And notice that the masjid and the gate of the masjid are a little bit angulated. So it was done that way because the masjid had to face Qibla and the gate was a little bit off-centered. But this is also a very beautiful place. Now, we're entering the Shah Lutfullah Masjid. This, according to history, was mostly used by the women of the palace. So the women went into this very beautiful mosque, and for those of you who are from Lebanon, Sheikh Lutfullah was from Lebanon in a place called Jabal Amal. So that's where the history of Sheikh Lutfullah. But the place is beautiful. Now my wife will tell you the significance of this picture.
See the dome, and that there is a light at the dome. At the end of that, the picture is not very clear. There is a peacock at the end, and it looks like when the light shines through that it's a peacock, because the tail is the light, but it signifies the direction of Kaaba. And people who are walking in, they look at that at about noon when the sun shines. It acts and shows the direction of Kaaba. It's beautiful. The picture has not done justice to it at all. it's something to see and watch. Amazing.
Okay, so
And also, a few pictures back, he showed you the courtyard, the shops surrounding the pond. That's the second largest square of the world. The first one is in China, and this is the second largest compound or square of the world.
so inside Sheikh Lutfullah Masjid is just extremely beautiful. Very nice painting, handwork, handicrafts, amazingly beautiful. I just cannot tell you how each one of these masajid are so beautiful and so decorated with tiles and pictures. This is the entrance of the Qaisari Bazaar, and I just want to show you some of the handicrafts and souvenirs on sale. Beautiful artwork. And I didn't have any picture of cloth. So guess what's this? So this is the famous product of Isfahan, is saffron, and it's widely available. We came out of this complex and we went to this place called the Namakdan, which in our language and Persian means a salt shaker, right? So this was the restaurant. This building was owned by Jewish people. Isfahan prides itself in having its Jewish community and Christian community and Zoroastrian community in there. So at night we saw this Armenian Orthodox church, and then in the daytime we went to see the church from inside. It's called the Church of Joseph of Arimathea, and there's a big complex of Armenian Christians and their businesses in this district. Everywhere you go in Iran, in addition to fresh fruits and vegetables, you get tons of dry fruit. Amazing, and very inexpensive and extremely nice. The same bridge which you saw at night, this is a daytime picture because the bus was going too fast, so that's the best I could do with taking a picture of that bridge during the daytime. So we're leaving Isfahan and we're going to go towards Yazd. And as we go towards Yazd, we're going to travel through the desert, as I mentioned, to a place called Nain. And Nain is not terribly significant, but it's a bus stop and a good place to eat, of course. You know, we were eating all the time. So I want to show you that this is the desert in between cities. Okay. And this is our group having lunch in Nain, lots of food. So we reach Yazd. Now Yazd is a very interesting Zoroastrian city. And in there, I want you to notice something which is called Bad Ghar. That because it's a desert, they had to collect water. So they had cisterns and ponds and underground wells. But to keep the water fresh, they used to aerate it with wind. And that's what you will see. But now we're in Yazd, which is in the middle of this map. So this is the most famous square in Yazd called Amir Ali Chakmakh, who was a Taimurid prince, and he developed this masjid and it's square, but it's an amazingly beautiful place. And all around there's a bazaar, lots of edibles to eat, lots of dry fruit and handicrafts. Notice in the back, these tall towers are the Badghar. These are the wind towers which they used to. And this is the place at night, Masjid Amir Chakma. This is at night. So it's just very beautiful.
In the middle, can you go back, please? The platform that you see, no. Ahead. The platform that was visible over there with the blue platform is for the Shahada of the war. It is amazing that the Irani culture has kept their Shahada alive by posting their pictures everywhere. It's when you see that, you kind of feel that this nation cannot be beaten, because if they haven't forgotten those who laid their life for their nation, then they are going to succeed in whatever. They have kept them alive. So everywhere you go, you see something like this. This is in commemoration for the Shahada and the soldiers who, some of them were known who they were and some of them were not. But they've kept them alive.
Okay, thank you. In the city of Yazd is from where the commemorations for Sayyidina Imam Hussein starts. So right next to this masjid is a huge, I would call it tazia in our language, but I don't know what you would call it in Arabic. Huh? No, I don't have a picture of that. So this is again Yazd that night and the towers. And then next morning we went to a very unusual place. For those of us who are from India and Pakistan would know that there's a community of Zoroastrians who are called Parsi from Paras, which is Faris, Iran. The Zoroastrians are very peculiar people. They're very hardworking. They intermarry, and they were ran out of Iran in 16 something. They also are monotheist. Their Nabi, or if you may call him, their spiritual leader was Zardasht, and he preached monotheism. But in their lifestyle, they do not bury their dead. They do not burn their dead. They leave their dead people on high elevation pits with a grate, and they leave it to the birds of prey. So the vultures come and eat their flesh, and their skeleton drops into the well, and then they collect and dispose those. So they did not believe contaminating the earth with their body. So this is a burial site. It was revived by Indian Parsis, and for those of us who are from India and Pakistan, you know the famous family Marker. This was rebuilt by one of their relatives, so it's called Marker, and then he established a clock tower in Yazd also. So this is the pit. They had all these buildings which prepared their bodies. By the way, nowadays they are burying them and I don't have a picture of their gravesite, but it was still there. So these are the places which prepare the bodies, and then their clergy goes and buries them, but this is not in use anymore. And again, the source of water has the Badgira next to it. These are the towers for wind collection. We go to a Parsi fire temple, and this is their fire temple, and it's still maintained. So those people who talk about intolerance in Iran need to see these things. That Jewish community lives there. By the way, the biggest place in the world where there is reverse migration from Israel out of Israel is in Iran. So the Jews from Israel come back and settle in Iran, and some of them are very respectfully treated. So this is a non-Muslim Parsi Zoroastrian fire temple. And notice this very peculiar diagram. This is a picture. It's a really very ancient picture called the Farawar. And this is a symbol of Persian nationalism. Now, each part of this picture has a significance, and I'm open to talking about it later. But notice that this is on top of the fire temple, is the Farahar, and I'll show it to you again. This is the fire. They call it the eternal fire. This fire has never been extinguished, and they brought this fire to India with them, and then it came to Pakistan from there. So this fire has never been extinguished. It just keeps burning. A little bit about them, and then again, each place has an underground water cistern. And then we went and had, again, everything's about food. So we went and had dinner, but I could not help to take a picture of these two parrots in a restaurant next to this place. All the history of Iran, in the past history of Iran, is well documented in a poetry called Shahnama, and it was written by Firdausi. And in there was a story about Rustam and Sohrab, which is also part of Iranian culture, and we know about that. So this is that time when the father kills the son. By mistake, he didn't know that this was his son, and this story keeps repeating itself in your travels in Iran. But I could not help take a picture. Notice that. American flag, Pakistani flag, Irani flag. So Iranians are very open-minded, and very tolerant, and they don't succumb to useless propaganda. In America, if you ever talk to people about Iran, they'll say, oh, they're bad, they're this, they're that. I said, what, can you explain that to me? And they have no explanation. So Iranian people are very objective in their relationship. Again in Yazd, that's the marker clock tower. And then next to this complex is one of the oldest masajid in Iran called the Ruknuddin, Sayyid Ruknuddin Masjid. This is one of the oldest masajid in Iran. It was built in the 6th Hijra, 724 Hijra. And so some of the earliest masajid in Iran. The peculiar thing about this masjid is it's relatively small, but the minarets are very tall. So disproportionately tall minarets. I really don't know the significance why. But very beautiful from inside. And this is the bazaar outside the masjid. From here onwards, we went to Shiraz. And Shiraz, we flew to Shiraz in a 737 Boeing, relatively new plane. Now tell me, where are the sanctions, right? So planes are even imported from United States still. So this is Shiraz.
Again, excellent food on 35 minutes flight.
Yes. So they said, I told you, if Isfahan is the head, Shiraz is the heart of Iran. Shiraz is an amazing city. It was relatively the center of Baha'ism, but not anymore. And it is famous for two poets, Sadi and Hafiz. So this is the tomb of Shirazi. Very nice in a very beautiful garden. And notice it still looks like desert. But this is the burial place of Sadi Shirazi. And he wrote two famous books, Gulistan and Bostan. Again, stories. This is the underground cistern, very decorated. This is the garden around there. Now, this place, which I'm going to show you, is my favorite place. This is why I went to Iran, is Persepolis, and that means the city of the Persians. That's what the Greeks called it. It's called Takht-e-Jamshed, and I first saw it when 1971, Iran had a big, huge party in the desert. Food was flown from Paris. A lot of dignitaries came. President of Pakistan also went, and they were made to stay in tents all around the Persepolis, and some of those tents are still there. So in 1971, we saw these images on television in Pakistan, and this place is called Takht-e-Jamshed. Jamshed was one of the mythological kings in the past. It was built by the Achaemenid Empire. The place was selected by Cyrus the Great, and his son Darius and then his son Xerxes developed this monument. When Alexander attacked Iran, he destroyed this place. And the reason he did so was the Persians destroyed Athens. Do you all remember the story, the 300 Spartans? That's when the Persian king was Xerxes. So they destroyed it. When Alexander came back, he killed Darius III, and he's buried in Persepolis. So when you enter, this is like the ceremonial capital of ancient Iran. And in there, every year, delegations came from all over the world to pay respect to the Iranian king. And this is the place from where the celebration of Nowruz starts, from here, which is an Iranian holiday, still observed by many people. So the Nowruz, or the spring equinox, starts from here. It was burnt by Alexander, but later all these people went, and it was in the desert, covered by sand, and now it's been restored. So this entrance to Persepolis is called the Gate of All Nations. It is guarded by two large bulls, and I'll show you the close-up. And those bulls have a Persian bearded man as the head. Bull was the symbol of virility and strength in Iran. So lots of columns, lots of monuments. This is a close-up of the gate. This is the bull. This is the other side, another two bulls. And then you have the stairway. So that place was called the Gate of All Nations. This is called the Stairway of All Nations. The amazing thing is that if you go close to these relics, you will find that each and every detail of the statue can tell you the nationality of the people, their animals, their special weapons, and their modes of transportation makes you immediately identify which nation this is. So it's just an amazing sight to see this place. And then you go up in the mountain, right next to it, and this is where 4 kings are buried, possibly Darius the III too. Notice on the topmost that you see this same symbol of Persian nationalism, the Farawa, which is, I tried to take a close-up of it. So same lion attacking the horse, and these are all the statues of the people, including their chariots, so you can identify where they're from. Amazing place. This is the palace of Xerxes, and in the back you see the Zargos mountains. Okay, so from here we go 3 kilometers further, and this is called Nakhshe-Rustum. This is another necropolis where the Persian kings are buried, and this is where Darius the First is buried, and many of the other 4 of the other kings are buried here from those times of the Achaemenid dynasty. So this is called Nakhshe-Rustum. Rustum again, Sorab and Rustum were heroes of this epic Shahnameh. Tomb of Darius, and right next to it is a big inscription called DNA. I really don't know why it's called a DNA, but this is the whole history written in inscription on there. So amazingly beautiful place, and this is where the epic of Rustum and Sorab shows up again. And outside, this is a cube which is called the Kaaba-e-Zardosht, the cube of Zoroaster. What is the significance? Nobody knows. So we come back to Shiraz, and this is just an amazingly beautiful garden called Iram Garden in the heart of Shiraz. And this is just a place where the Khajjar king lived for a while, but it's surrounded by a beautiful palace. So we go into the inner city of Shiraz now, and this is the Wakil Bazaar, and next to it in the Citadel district, which is the fort, is the Masjid Nasr al-Mulk, another beautiful masjid, but this is 16th century or a little later. But the hall, which I want you to see after you see the masjid and see how beautiful it is, this is the courtyard of the masjid. This part of the masjid is called the Pink Mosque, and this is why. So this is all 19th century artwork developed later, but it's very, very beautiful at this time of the day. Pictures cannot do justice to how beautiful it is. So we visited Sadi Shirazi. Now we're going to go to the mausoleum of Hafiz. Amazing thing about Hafiz is that Irani people are very sophisticated and have a lot of etiquette and a lot of traditions. And one of the tradition is that every evening after dinner, when our kids are playing video games, Irani kids sit with the family and they read Hafiz over tea and mewa, which is fruit. So this is a tradition which they have maintained for a long time. Not only do they read Hafiz, but they do fortune telling or fal with Hafiz. So outside the tomb of Hafiz, you find so many people who will tell you your fortune, if you were interested in that. So his divan is used for that purpose, and this is the graveside of Hafiz. Very beautiful place. Another thing which my wife would like to elaborate is bookshops and libraries. We don't even see bookshops anymore. You know, there used to be 1 or 2 bookshops in a mall when I first came to United States. Now we don't even see bookshops anymore. And even in Pakistan, I barely see a bookshop. They've all become garment stores. But this is still maintained, and place to place to place, when you go in Iran, you will see bookshops. So this is a library and a reading room.
The bookshops in every neighborhood. That's what we saw. Amazingly, you know, when we walk to these places, our tour guides would ask us, "Are you not going to buy any books?" Because I guess it's a part of the culture, or they at least wanted us to believe that it's a part of the culture. Shahnama is the other thing that we were told is a thing of every day or every weekend ritual in their country. Shahnama was amazing because Firdausi did the Shahnama, and it really is in poetry form, but it just tells the whole entire history of Persia. And so if kids are being taught that from day one, can you imagine the love that they have for their nation and their country? I think every nation should do that. Every nation should have their history be in a story form so that even children can enjoy it. And that's what I saw there in Iran, and it was really amazing to see that. And especially the book and the bindings of the books. I bought just very, inexpensive form of all three of them. Very inexpensive. Yet if you look at the binding, it's so beautiful.
So that's an art to bind books, and we're losing it now. Okay, so another bookshop in the same complex. This is a hotel in Shiraz where we went for lunch, and then this is the fortress of Shiraz. Again, notice on the extreme right of the picture is the Badkar, which is a wind catcher. So this is Shiraz, and I also wanted to point out to you that while we were there, there was a street show, some acting, and people are holding a little nice show on the side, and women were with them. So it's not that they are totally excluding women. We saw women in every walk of life. Ladies were participating. Of course, wherever you went, you saw a nice picture saying this is our etiquette with the hijab, and this is what's expected. But we saw a lot of women without hijab.
No, hijab it said, the notices said that hijab is the identity of a Muslim woman. And that was really a very beautiful way of expressing to people what it means. What is hijab? But not only that, the hijab does not stop you from whatever you want and desire to achieve in life.
So women were everywhere, in every walks of life.
Our tour guides, every bus had a tour guide who was a woman. They had 2 tour guides in every bus. We had 7 buses, and we were the 3rd group. So every group had 7. So we were the 3rd and the last group. And every group had 1 woman as a tour guide and 1 young man as a tour guide. It was really wonderful to see them. They were driving buses. We saw them as truck drivers over there. So they are participating in everyday life along with the men.
So this is the Wakil Bazaar, and each bazaar has many bazaars into it. So they all merge at one point. So this was Wakil Bazaar. This was another bazaar called Sarai Mosher, which is a jewelry, gemstones. And Iran is full of gemstones, especially, what's the English word for Firoza? Turquoise? Turquoise, very famous for turquoise. So this, even my Pakistani friends can read, Urdu Bazaar, okay? Like we have a Urdu Bazaar in every city, right? In Lahore too, famous Urdu Bazaar. But I want you to, underneath the English Bazaar Business Center, you see Haramain Shah Chiragh. And I want you to remember that. I'll tell you why in later. But that was the place, that is the place where 4 brothers of Imam Raza, Rahmatullah alayhi, are buried. So it's called Haramain Shah Chiragh, right, Abbas? Right? I could not help take a picture of Pakistani mango crates. Okay, again, October is not the season for mango, but you know what, I'm a nationalist too, so I had to take that picture of Pakistani mangoes. Okay, another carpet shop, and notice the Sher-o Khurshid symbol right there. And then outside, Faluda Shirazi. Another delicacy of Shiraz is Faluda, and we all grew up with strings of Faluda and ice cream, right? So another nice, I could not help take a picture of this bird. This bird is entirely made of plants, and it was very close to our hotel. But notice again the desert background. And that night, twice in our stay in Shiraz, we went to eat at this famous restaurant called Haft Khan. And the good thing is each floor is a different ethnic food. So there are 5 floors, and each floor has a different flavor of food. And then this was a group that night who sang for us. These kids are, they sang in, they are mute. The kids are mute, poor kids, and they sang in sign language. So this was encouragement to the kids. Okay, from Shiraz we flew to Mashhad, again on a brand new 737 Boeing. Okay, so much for that. This is the Razavi Khurasan. All, I told you all, everything in Iran is about Imam Raza. So every street is Raza this, Raza street that, Raza district, Imam Raza center, Imam Raza street. So that's Mashhad. We went to 4 towns in Mashhad. We went to Sandis, which is famous, I'll tell you why. We went to Mashhad itself, we went to Tus, and we went to Nishapur. So this is the Mashhad area, and this is why Sandis is famous for his lamb chops. The best, most succulent, large lamb chops we don't smell. There's no smell of lamb in it. And so this place, Sandis, is famous for it. And look at the restaurant. This is the restaurant. So you could sit in a hall, or you could sit in private cabins to enjoy the food over there. Okay. So from there we went to Tus, and this is the gravesite of Firdausi. Firdausi was the famous poet at the time of Mahmud al-Ghazni, who was commissioned to write the Shahnama in Farsi. And the Shahnama is an epic story. It's a very long, it's a whole book about the story of ancient Iran all the way to this time. So his grave, he died in obscurity, but his grave was discovered by an Englishman, and he reconstructed this whole complex on the same style of how Cyrus the Great's tomb is. So that's Firdausi, and that is his Shahnama. And notice again Farawar on the top. The symbol of Persian nationalism is there on the top. So again the epic of Rustam and Sohrab. This is the gravesite, and you go out. As my wife mentioned, every town as you enter and leave, you see the pictures of the Shohada, of the war with Iraq. And in there, everywhere, you see a picture of Qasim Soleimani. I couldn't help it, every city. So you know what? They did not forget him, okay? They did not forget him. So another hero of the ancient past, his statue is there. And this is the hotel we stayed in Shiraz. It's called the Darwish Hotel, very beautiful hotel. I can't tell you how beautiful this hotel is. And I want to show you, as we drive in towards the hotel in Mashhad, going towards the haram of Imam Raza, I want to show you this. This is how beautiful and how clean it is. And that Darwish Hotel is on the right side of the picture. But notice that you will see the Roza of Imam Raza very soon. See it? It's just breathtakingly beautiful. So on the left side, the green building is the Masjid Gauhar Shah. She was the wife of Shah Rukh Khan, who was the son of Taimur. And there's a story behind it, but she built this masjid. And then right, the golden structure is the Roza of Imam Raza. This is inside the complex. There's a lot of security getting in, but huge complex and a huge underground parking lot. Amazing. This place is just overwhelming and very beautiful. This is inside, and that's the Roza. Lot of extremely busy place. But the interesting thing is, all of these monuments are managed by retired government and military officers. And even a senior officer would be there collecting shoes and putting them into places. So next morning we go to the gravesite of Atta. Now we went to Nishapur, which is about hour or 2 hours away from Mashhad. This is the grave site of Attar, another famous poet, and then the grave site of Umar Khayyam, who was a poet, mathematician, and astronomer. Very famous Umar Khayyam, and his rubayat are very famous. So that's his tomb. Didn't you say Faradiba had that built?
Yeah, Faradiba was
Queen
involved.
Faradiba had that built.
Yeah, was involved in a lot of architectural
She was
things.
an architect herself.
She was the one who had it designed, and she not only that, the first Azadi Tower, she was involved in the designing of that also.
So this is a Masjid Jami next to there, and that's coming out of Nishapur. You see again the desert, but that's Qasim Soleimani over there. Okay. Now, I end this, and I want to thank you for your patience, because this was a long presentation, and I realized that I only showed you 232 pictures, but I have that many more which I haven't seen. But this is a mall, and look at a typical mall in Mashhad. Now, why would I'm the last person to go into a mall, because I get suffocated and I can't breathe when I go to a mall, so I don't go to a mall. But
Especially when I'm shopping.
yeah, well, we had to go there because we were not allowed to go to the Rawda of Imam Raza that day. And I told you to remember the Char Chiragh. There was a massacre the day before in Char Chiragh. 21 people died. A terrorist organization, extremist people, killed them, and the security agency did not allow us to go into Imam Rawda. But there was a compensation, and we received lunch from there, because people in our group had made a heavy donation the day before, so they sent what is called tabarruk. It was the best meal in Iran. The best meal we had was that day, and that was a compensation for not going into Imam Raza, and we ended up in the mall. So I want to thank you for your attention. Jazakallah. Abbas, you want to say something? Actually, before I went, Dr. Hamdani, Uzair Hamdani, he told me about the tabarruk, and he said if you go to the kitchen and present your passport, they will give you a meal. But again, they would not allow us to go. So any questions, inshallah?